everyone, my name's Ranger M, and I work at Catfish Creek Conservation Authority. I'm the community outreach technician, and that means I do a lot of this, chatting about all things nature and conservation with kids, adults, teachers, everyone. I love to knowledge share, and that's just what I'm going to do with you. So come on, let's go learn with Ranger M.
Flooding is causing widespread devastation in Pakistan. More than 1,000 people have died. 1/3 of the country is underwater, and 6 million people are in need of emergency assistance. The humanitarian coalition is responding to the crisis in Pakistan. You can help. Donate today at together.ca, and your donation will be matched by the Canadian government. That's together.ca, the humanitarian coalition. Together, saving more lives.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Municipal All Candidates meeting for Ward 13. My name is Katie Wilhelm, and I'll be your moderator this afternoon. Our timekeeper is Darcy. Our other volunteers assisting with this event here will raise their hands. We've got Laura, Michelle, Ragad, and Diana. Thank you. And we'd like to begin today by acknowledging the land on which we gather and the many Indigenous people of this region. The three long-standing Indigenous groups of this region are the Anishinaabeg, Haudenosaunee, and Lenape-Wak. I'd also like to recognize the three First Nations communities neighboring the City of London, which are the Chippewas of Nawash First Nation, or the Chippewas of the Thames First Nation. I'm from Chippewas of Nawash First Nation. Oneida Nation of the Thames, and the Munsee Delaware Nation. We recognize that we, as the Urban League members and community, have a role to play in relationship building and reconciliation, and that reconciliation has to be about more than talk. It has to be about action. Miigwech, Yako, Anishik. The Urban League of London is hosting all candidates meetings with partner organizations from across London, including ANOVA, Climate Action London, Inclusive Economy London and Region, London Cycle Inc., London Environmental Network, London Intercommunity Health Centre, London School of Racialized Leaders, London Middlesex Local Immigration Partnership, Pillar Nonprofit Network, and Young London. We are hosting 14 of these meetings throughout London before the municipal elections scheduled for October 24th, 2022. A volunteer-run committee was struck by the Urban League of London and has been meeting since January to organize these meetings. The committee is comprised of individuals from various organizations across the city and set the goal of encouraging participation in local government and the political process. The committee has invited all candidates to participate. Along with the partner organizations, the committee also created a list of important questions to ask the candidates. We request that everyone here today be respectful to the candidates and to our fellow audience members. We'd also like to encourage those of you in the audience who use social media to tag us in your posts on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. On Facebook, that's at Urban League of London, all one word. On Twitter, that's at ULLDN. And on Instagram, that's at ULLDN. And always use that hashtag LDNvotes. So we'd especially like to thank the Central Library and the Stevenson and Hunt meeting rooms for their support in providing this meeting space. We also like to thank the London Community Foundation for sponsoring the all candidate meetings and remind the audience of their 2021 release of their Vital Signs report, Be the Change. Vital Signs is a biannual check-in on how we're faring on issues that are significant to well-being and quality of life. The latest report focuses on making systemic change by coming together to participate in collective action. The report is available at bethechangelondon.ca. And a big thank you to Rogers TV for filming the event for broadcast today. Now let me explain the ground rules that we're going to follow. So first, I'm going to draw our candidates' names from an envelope, and that will determine our speaking order. Each candidate then will have 2 minutes for an opening introduction. Our first candidate will draw from an envelope a question, which they will be given 2 minutes to provide an answer to. After this, the remaining candidates will have 1 minute each for a rebuttal for that question. This continues until each candidate has drawn at least one question. With 3 candidates, we may have 2 or 3. And candidates, please make sure to speak clearly into the microphone. You're able to remove these from your stand as well, if that helps. So once every candidate has completed a question from the envelope, we will then select questions provided by the audience. If we exhaust all those audience questions, then we will return to the questions from the envelope until the end of our meeting. So here's how the timekeeping is going to work. Remember, Darcy's our timekeeper. And she's got 3 cards. She's got a green card, a yellow card, and a red card. So when the allotted time begins, the green card will be held up. At the 30-second point from the end of the time, the yellow card will be held up. So that's your 30-second warning. And then the red card is held up, and you must immediately end your answer. So as moderator, my job is to move the evening along and to ensure that every candidate is treated fairly and has an equitable amount of time to answer the questions. Yay! Right? All candidates are provided with the questions in advance of the meeting, and this affords them the opportunity to prepare their responses. So I will read the questions as they are drawn. Now, before we begin, I want to point out the candidates in the room that are running for school board trustee. Today we have Beth Mai in the room. Hi, Beth. Hi, Beth. And we've got Sherry Moore. Thank you. Yes, thank you. Fantastic. Okay, so here we're going to, I'm going to draw the candidates' names from the hat. Drum roll. Alex Hames. Second in the rotation is John Fyfe-Fillar. And let's draw the last one. Last certainly not least, we've got David Ferreira. Okay, so before we get into drawing our questions in the order that we've just pulled out here, let's do 2 minutes for an opening statement from each of the candidates in the order that we drew. So that is Alex first. Oh, this is in order. This is nice. This worked out well. Okay, Alex, over to you.
So my name is Alexandria Hames, and I just want to start off by thanking the Urban League of London and all the participants in hosting this event for today. I'm running for Ward 13, which is the downtown district. The reason why I'm running is London needs a strong leader with a voice that's willing to listen to the community, as well as inspire a new era of voters. I have over 4 years working with the City of London and currently working with the Animal and Tree Forestry Advisory Committees, which is now called the Environment Stewards Committee. I'm able to work with the experts and able to contribute ideas while building a better city and following along with our strategic plans. What is missing from our city is diversity within the core, affordable housing, and better public transit. London is one of the fastest growing cities in Ontario, and we need to have safer communities as well as utilizing our green spaces and showing that London can continue to grow for future generations. I have a background in mental health. I work as a DSW. I can see clearly there's a lack of funding, a lack of programming, and a lack of infrastructure within our city. Sorry. I have a powerful voice, and I can remember the Forest City. I've grown up here for the past 32 years. I'm born and raised. I'm third-generation Londoner. A little bit more about me is I have a fiance, I have a dog. I love walking in our ESAs, our parks. I've contributed to our hosting movie nights. I've had 3 ideas in the decision-making process within the City of London, and I currently have 2 parks that I adopt and clean. And if you need to find out anything more about my campaign, you can meet me after this meeting, and I'd be more than happy to fill you in with anything. And always remember that voting is on October 24th. And if you need anything more about me,
thank you,
see you
Alex. And we'll move on to John.
Thank you. My name is John Fyfe-Fillar, and I'm your current Ward 13 councillor. I'm a husband, father, business owner, and lover of this city. I walk our ward daily, stopping businesses and chatting with residents. Without a doubt, this is a special place. Special with unique promises and underlying challenges. Ward 13 represents the heart of London, with its strengths and weaknesses on full display. More importantly are the people who choose to call it home, diversely rich with unique needs and often competing interests. I can tell you I live with my biggest advocate and my harshest critic. Together, though, we form a dynamic duo, something we should desire in the core. Approaching when we do this through a party lens can alienate people, including the very people we need to work with to make things happen. I work with everyone. As a councillor, on any given day, you have to address potholes, trash, enforcement, and homelessness. Each deserves the time and energy not only to be heard, but to be respected. One should come into municipal politics to make things happen, to improve things in the community, not to change the world, to be the voice of all, not a select few. Of all the candidates who have come before you in the last 3 elections, I am the only one who has come back to you for your vote. Everyone else, winner or loser, has moved on. I care, I love this ward, the people, and this job. My vision for Ward 13 is of a clean, safe, and vibrant core surrounded by welcoming, inclusive neighborhoods. I'm here to ask for your vote in October so that we can continue the work that we've started. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll move on to David.
Hi, I'm David Ferreira. I'm a born and raised and proud Londoner. Born at St. Joseph's Hospital, raised in the East End. Child to an entrepreneurial family, so I'm no stranger to discussion of business at the dinner table. Went to St. Bernadette Elementary, John Paul II Secondary. Then I did a little bit of time at Fanshawe College, and then I went to Western University where I did my first undergraduate degree in biology, honor specialization. Then I did my second undergrad degree, honor specialization political science. Then I went on to England to do my master's in international political economy, which I graduated with distinction at the University of York in the UK. Came back, started my career with Canada Life, and I worked there as a business analyst until I lost my job in October 2020. With bills and mortgage to pay, I quickly found myself into the gig economy, and that included me having to move out of my house for 12 months and start an online business with my partner, Claire. Since then, we have had a child, a daughter, which I can't wait to see again today when I go back home. I'm here because London is on a path that doesn't look so hot at the end. And I see October 24th as going down as a day in history that London can take our city back. If we all come out on October 24th and vote the way we should, we can actually take our city back and change the course of direction of where we're going. That's why I'm here. I'm here to basically show you that I'm here stepping up because I want to take our city back, and I'm going to listen to you. And we are going to do what we need to do and change the direction that we are on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, candidates, for your opening statements. And we've got a candidate here who wasn't able to make it, but did provide a statement. So at this point, I will read a statement from David Millie. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming out this afternoon. I wish I could be with you, but sadly, I have tested positive for COVID-19 and want to ensure your safety as well as the safety of my fellow candidates. In the coming week, I will be providing written responses to the questions from today on my website, millitime.ca, so that my position on these important issues is available to you. Quickly about me, I am an IT professional at a leading national insurance company, and I am focused on improving processes and reducing waste. I also have a decade in experience in leadership in Scouts Canada and a proven track record of working to improve community. Ward 13 is facing challenges in housing, affordability, and active transportation. As a tenant, I know firsthand what impacts Londoners in our core. Like many people in the ward, even with a good job, I have not been able to crack into the housing market as prices have continued to climb. This ward is overrepresented by renters, and we need a voice on council who understands our unique challenges. When it comes to helping unhoused neighbors and increasing the safety of our downtown, we need to see housing first solutions. They are proven to be the most effective and cost-efficient method of uplifting vulnerable people, while also being the most compassionate. I invite everyone to please visit my website, millietime.ca, to learn more about me and to reach out to see how all Londoners fit into my vision of a thriving London. I hope I can count on your support on October 24th. Thank you, from David Millie. Thank you. So we get to the fun part. We get to the questions. In order, I'm going to take my envelope. I'm going to walk down, and Alex is going to pull the question. I'm going to read it. Alex will have 2 minutes to answer, and then 1 minute for rebuttal down the line.
Big one or a short one? I don't know.
I know, pick the biggest one.
It could have been a strategy.
In the belonging category, our question is, many in our community feel like they don't belong, especially newcomers, marginalized groups, and Indigenous communities. What do you believe needs to be done to ensure everyone feels like they belong? And your time starts now.
Diversity and culture is definitely missing throughout the downtown core. Having more recreational and spiritual and more cultural events appropriate would definitely help benefit the core area as well as the community, and give newcomers a sense of belonging. Having these programs will help individuals as well as newcomers into the city become more welcome. Talking to other locations and other Indigenous groups or other newcomer groups to kind of get their help and support in the core area so that there can be a collaboration between the two will definitely help inspire more sense of community and belonging to the individuals who are lacking that sense of belonging. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex, and over to John.
Thank you. First, Alex, great points. I think I would agree with everything that you're saying there. I think a couple things we could add to that, first and foremost, is housing. When we're welcoming new Canadians to Canada, we need to recognize that everyone's desire for housing is unique and different. We have people coming from different countries who are only used to living in high-rise buildings. So welcoming those people and ensuring that they still feel that quality of life and that piece of them that they're bringing with them is keenly important. I think the other thing that we have to talk to is safety. One of the things that this needs to revolve around is it needs to revolve around safety and what safety means, not just to the people here, but to the people who are coming here. It is a concern in Ward 13, and I think it's a concern that as we move forward is something that we have to take on. Thank you.
Thank you. And to David.
First thing would be give them a voice. We need to create an environment where people feel free and comfortable to come forward and actually discuss with everyone else. A lot of people see a lot of barriers because they feel that they're judged, and we need to remove those barriers as a city. We can support community events. We can support any initiatives by certain groups from different backgrounds, from different walks of life, and we need to just promote actually speaking together with each other. I think that would be the biggest barrier that should be removed. As long as we actually give everyone a voice and we give everyone the ability and remove these barriers to come forward and speak with one another, I feel like that would be the first step. We could also support community halls and community initiatives going forward as well. As a city, it is our duty to do so.
Thank you. And now we'll go to our second question draw. Another belonging section question. The current city council was the first in the country to add in a pillar to the city's strategic plan that specifically focused on making London a safer place for women and girls. How will you, as a city councillor, work to ensure this important pillar is addressed? With record numbers of femicides in Canada, what are the opportunities that you see available to address gender-based violence in the City of London? We'll start with John.
Much for that question. So first and foremost, I want to make a point that when we talked about bringing adult entertainment to the core, I was directly against that. That is something that I think is key. And I think when you speak and have a pillar on ensuring the safety of women and girls in London, and fully understanding when you engage with organizations such as LAC, who make it very clear that the trafficking of women in London is a huge issue. We need to be able to stand up to do that. But as important as that, the silent voice of men needs to stand up in front of one another and hold people to account. Hold your friends to account. Hold your colleagues to account. It's undue unto us to create a safe city for women and girls. But further to that, when you talk to women who are in the downtown core, there is one very clear, concise message. They do not feel safe. And that is a problem. That is a problem that we need to address head on. And part of that is having the conversation openly and honestly with the right groups of people at the table. Because make no mistake, the pendulum has swung, and it's swung a long way. But we need to get this back. There is no reason why a woman should feel in this city that when she goes into her apartment at 6 o'clock at night that she cannot come out until the next morning. That has to change. That's on the city, it's on the community, and it's on us to make that difference. Thank you.
Thank you. And answering in our order, we'll have Alex next.
For some reason,
We're gonna, never mind. Sorry. All right, your time starts now.
Okay, I see this as a deeply rooted issue in our culture. I see that there's a rising incidence of masculinity and misogyny in the type of violence that we see. And I feel like it comes from a sense of entitlement. So I feel like there's a cultural change that we need to actually address. And that it definitely includes, as John was saying, education and dialogue. That includes men at the center of men being able to play their part to stop this. So that would be the first step, I think. More reactive solutions that we could bring in is, I would think the City Hall should definitely support more emergency shelters for women and girls fleeing domestic violence. And not just shelters for women and girls fleeing domestic violence for 30 days or 48 days. We need these types of housing for more than that, a year or two. Enough time for people to get over the past trauma and get back on their feet. Getting past trauma is probably something that they'll have to do throughout their entire life, and they may not get over it. But if we were to be able to provide the type of housing to financially get back on your feet.
Thank you so much for your answer. And now we will move to Alex, and your time starts now.
I definitely agree with David, and having more funding for women's shelters and more women programs would definitely help with women having more opportunities within the community, especially in the downtown core. Helping utilize export resources within City Hall, like the Cities Safe London Committee, and helping follow their action plan, just to ensure that these pillars are going to stay followed throughout other plans within the city. Definitely making more funding and more programs available is going to be the biggest thing to help contribute to eliminating violence within the community of London on women. And I'll definitely be a great voice for that as a woman, sorry.
Thank you. And now we'll have our next question draw.
Is that her?
The pandemic presented new and unprecedented challenges to our city. In looking ahead to a pandemic recovery strategy, what are your top 3 priorities and why?
Top 3. Can I start again? Sorry. Top 3 priorities would be housing that's actually affordable. Second priority, and not in particular order, these are all at the top for me, would be finding housing for those who find themselves unhoused and building towards an environmentally friendly city. So the first priority for housing that's actually affordable. First idea I'd like to see is we need to lobby our government partners to scrap the 80% definition of affordable housing, because that simply doesn't work. The market rate is increasing by the day, maybe even by the hour. And we need to redefine that for rent geared to income. So that's something that I'd like to see. On top of that, going back to the housing, the commodification of our housing supply is being gobbled up. We are seeing huge amounts of housing getting picked up, sometimes even full blocks. And that's being turned into temporary exclusive housing, which basically is geared towards students. And that is exploiting students, frankly, straight up, which pushes upward pressure on our housing market. It also, by advertisement alone, blocks people from even responding to the ad and forces other Londoners to go into the rest of the housing supply, which further puts upward pressure on our housing. We need to look into that. The city just put a bylaw through for short-term rentals. So I see this as a logical next step to start looking at to reduce the commodification of our housing. Further on that, housing for those who find themselves unhoused. The city has resources and we have a lot of vacant buildings around. We could also build gearing towards that. We need to look into that, and the city has a mandate to do something like that. Speaking towards our environment, all new buildings, all new builds should be used with biomimicry, natural filtration systems, and low impact development. I would like to see all new buildings utilize this. And when we do maintenance and convert our current infrastructure, we should be converting it with the same type of techniques. That's how the city should be working to find a better future for ourselves, and that's the direction we should be looking at.
Thank you. Thank you. Over to Alex.
No worries. It's usually me that's holding it up. All right, 3 priorities for me throughout the pandemic would definitely be urgent home for the vulnerable, strengthening the downtown core and small businesses, and streamlining collaborations with the businesses as well as the nonprofits and programs to assist people who are vulnerable throughout the pandemic. So ways that we can utilize and improve urgent housing would be utilizing funds that are currently available and being proactive. The community has currently had funds available, and just being able to put those in perspective of the individuals who are in need, and having more consistency with that. Strengthening the downtown core by giving more support and funding to small businesses and being able to strengthen them, and streamlining collaborations with nonprofits would be being able to fund mental health programs as well as housing.
Thank you. And to John.
Thank you. For my 3 priorities, number 1 is a rethink of our downtown core. The reality is we have gone from 55,000 people coming there daily to 39,000 to post-pandemic, somewhere in the neighborhood of 10,000 people coming into work every day. We must rethink our downtown core to be the new first neighborhood of our city. And that means we must bring residents there. That means converting existing commercial properties to residential properties, which is key. The second is the economy. We are going to go into a multi-year budget with rising inflation and rising interest rates, which will be challenging not only for the city, but for Londoners as a whole. And we must look at that. Thirdly, and I'm not going to repeat because I know I'm going to run out of time, but I will say housing is an issue that we need to look at. Safe, reliable, supportive housing with wraparound services for individuals who need it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your answers to our questions, candidates. At this point, we're going to flip over and ask some questions that were provided from the audience. Audience members who registered for the event were given the opportunity to submit questions in advance. These answers will be limited to 1 minute answer for each candidate, please. The first question from Sharon D. Do you think your social responsibility is to you or the city? And we'll start in our order with Alex first.
I definitely think it's for the city. This is a job that I am applying for. And as a volunteer for the city, I take everything I do very seriously, from listening to experts, from taking the time to research things, and just putting in my all effort. Being a born and raised Londoner, I can see the change and I can see the gaps and I can see where I would be beneficial. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, and over to John.
Thank you. First and foremost, you are a city councillor. You're a city councillor that represents the people of Ward 13. But at the end of the day, your decisions are based on what is best for the city as a whole. You must engage with your constituents, and I think I've done that extremely well. But I think one of the important things is recognize that when you come here, you are here for one reason and you should be here for one reason only. And that is your goal should be to leave this space better than the way you found it at the end of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, and to David.
So my social responsibility has always been to the people around me, my friends and my family, but I've taken it to the next level, and that's why I'm here. My social responsibility is now for our entire city. I feel like we should all pick up this type of responsibility for the people around us, because that, I feel, is one of the big things that London is lacking the most at the moment, especially in the last few years. And that is my main message that I'm usually promoting, along with some other things, but it's to get together, to talk to each other, to engage, to lower the barriers of people coming forward and expressing their opinions, where they come from and their ideas. That's what my idea of social responsibility is for the city. Thank you.
Thank you. And to our next audience advance question from Ann I. How would you address the ongoing and increasing number of vagrants and subsequent rise in theft in our neighborhoods? Alex.
Sorry. So throughout the core, there is an obvious impact that's happened throughout the pandemic, and it's seems to be increasing. If I was able to do anything, it would be to allocate more funding for potentially a mental health officer similar to the Hamilton police. This would give the London police more opportunities to engage with individuals who are in need, and it would give the individuals in need the resources that are necessary for them to grow and to overcome or become the individuals they want to be. Doing that program would definitely help support Londoners, and the funding can definitely be easily supported from our city. Thank you.
Thank you, and over to John.
First, for the question, I'm sure we could each take the next 20 minutes to answer that question. So I'm going to very focus on two very small things. First being the COAST program that is not fully funded yet. The COAST program is a very important program that we need funding for full time. And I think that is something as councillors that we must push for. The second piece is the core area program that we have downtown. Core area is our proactive policing program, and we need a proactive policing program on our streets to deal with what we're dealing with day to day. Last piece, because I see that I'm yellow, we need to start to deal with criminals in our downtown as criminals, and that is not all homeless individuals, but we have people downtown who feed on our homeless individuals, and we need to deal with them legally the way law would. Thank you.
Thank you, and over to David.
Rather than reactive solutions in policing, we should look at proactive solutions and actually look at the real causes of why we see these type of instances happening in London. I'd like to take a holistic approach and identify what exactly is the cause that we see and why people are being pushed to these levels to do that. I'm sure that no individual will actually go to these lengths that we see around London out of choice. They're doing it out of necessity. So if we were to look at the reasons and we were to tackle it at that level and be holistic about it, I feel like that is the way that we should be going forward. Thank you.
Thank you for your answers. Our next question is from Mary Ann H. What do you see as the next step to moving forward on the City of London's Climate Emergency Action Plan? We'll start with Alex.
So climate change is a real issue that is very prevalent in our city, from the air quality increasingly getting worse. You can check those statistics online. London has plans set in place through their business plan, as well as the urban strategy plan and urban forestry plan, documents that I'm very familiar working with when I'm advising the Animal Welfare Committee or the Tree and Forest Committee. Being able to identify issues in the city that are related to climate change, and being able to have education for the diversity newcomers, being able to have affordable housing that is climate change related, like gerberators, solar panels, having more rapid transit that is environmentally friendly, like a rapid bus transit system, basically trying to be more proactive in the decisions that we're making forward.
And same question to John.
Thank you. First, I would say I was very happy to support the Climate Emergency Action Plan that was put forward by the city. One of the big things that I can say that we can do is create walkable communities. One of the great things with this ward is every community is walkable to the downtown. So this is an area within our city where we don't just need to talk about walkable communities, we actually can create walkable communities. And I think creating those walkable communities is key to moving forward. We need areas where people can play, live, and work without the necessity of a vehicle, without the necessity of transit. We have an opportunity to do that here, and I think we need to take hold of that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. And to David.
So not enough time, but I'm going to try. Like I was saying before, low impact development in all our new builds. And that also would include things like super insulation, photovoltaics, solar thermal, and going to what John was saying, I'd like to see multiple mobility transit options. That's including a protected bike grid throughout the entire city and actual bus services that connect home to work with living throughout the city. I was speaking to a resident who told me that her partner wasn't able to get to a good union-paying job on Innovation Drive because there was no bus services there. Not even an hour and a half bus trip with 3 transfers and 500 meters walking at the end. I checked online, there was 0 bus services there, which incentivizes them to drive. We need to start looking at issues like this, and we need to start connecting our entire city to actually make it a walkable city and give those multiple transit options. Thank you.
Thank you for your answers. Our second last audience advance question is from Rita V. What will you do to build and support more nonprofit housing in the city, not just for the lowest income people, but for those of us who need what has been named the missing middle housing market? Rents have more than doubled in the last 10 years because the province has removed most rent controls. Building nonprofit housing for different income levels would be one way to add more affordable units to the market. How would you support citizens in initiating housing projects? To Alex.
Thank you. That's a great question. Improving accessibility to affordable housing is 100% a need that needs to happen throughout the community. Definitely being able to speed up the permit process within City Hall, hiring more staff, or even being able to lower the cost so that developers are able to steamroll the process of developing more multi-units or duplexes within this area so that we can have the growth that is necessary. Being able to use funding from the national plan as well as seed funding or investment affordable housing funding. These are all opportunities that we have currently available from our provincial government that our municipality is not utilizing with partnerships throughout the community, and being able to partner with nonprofits would definitely be able to steamroll some of the housing that is necessary, and the funding would be available. Thank you.
Next, we'll go to John.
Thanks very much. First, I'm going to agree with everything that Alex said. Spot on. I'm going to add a couple of things to that, and part of it is our challenge right now on affordable housing. You know, at council, what we do is we pass these buildings with affordable housing units in them, and these buildings are 5, 7, 10 years away. Some of these buildings will never be built. This is not having any impact on our affordable units today. We need to find a creative solution to get dollars into people's hands today that will deal with housing. We can do that through community benefit agreements with developers to create housing pots that will allow us to deal with our housing crisis now. Secondly, on top of that, walking through this ward, there are a lot of secondary dwelling units that are not being utilized. We need to find a way to do that effectively so that we get people in buildings today who are dealing with the housing crisis. Thank you.
Thank you. And to David.
So first thing I'd like to do is push the vacant buildings and vacant residential units back into the market. Whether it's a vacant property tax for residential units or targeting the commodification of our housing like we said before. It's up to council to steer development and steer the city to where the city needs to go in our strategic initiatives. Right now, commodification and financialization of housing is up here. The public good is down here. Council needs to balance that. That's number one. Number two, like I said before, we need to redefine what affordable housing is. That is a big thing that we need to do because we're losing the debate right there once we start using the word affordable housing because it's 80% market rate. It needs to be rent geared to income. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. And our last advance audience question from Dawn N. What practical measures do you support to address the issues related to the homeless in downtown London? What suggestions do you have to attract business and or residents to the many empty buildings downtown? We'll start with Alex.
That's another great question. It is obvious that there is a lack of business throughout the downtown core by the vacant buildings, and it's definitely been something that is prominent, especially after this pandemic. I am in agreement with most of the people here that having a vacancy bylaw, vacancy tax on homeowners or vacant storefronts would definitely inspire individuals to get those businesses out and going, as well as having a more streamlined process for permits so that buildings can be made into those businesses so that success can start growing. When it comes to the homeless, basically having more funding, more programs, more accessibility to housing, transit, and mental health officers with psychologists on staff, and the support will definitely help the core as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you. Over to John.
Again, a multifaceted question, and thank you for that. First, I'm going to speak to the vacancy in the downtown core. Part of the challenge, and when you go back about 4 years ago, we removed the vacancy tax rebate. So it's no longer beneficial to keep buildings vacant in our downtown core. With that, we didn't see an uptake. So the question is why? I think the main reason is because we need to get our house in order downtown. We have huge challenges that we need to deal with in our downtown core. When we're willing to deal with those, at that point in time, I see a move forward to fill some of those vacant spaces. But I'm going to say on the housing piece too, we have something that's really missing here in London, and that's a provincial voice. It is the province that creates wraparound service. It is the province that creates appropriate housing and healthcare. We have a healthcare issue in our...
For your answer to the question, we'll have time for closing statements following, and we'll move on to David.
So yes, it's the province, but it's the city to show the province what people are asking for. We have a ton of vacant buildings downtown, that is true. I walk down Dundas Street and I see people outside leaning up against vacant buildings. Everyone's outside, no one's inside. So we need to find a way to put people back inside. Some of the buildings we see downtown, we have some good arguments that we could mandate the sale of these buildings. Whether it's using our heritage and showing that some of these buildings are suffering demolition by neglect, or whether it's actually seeing the crisis that we see of people who are unhoused, we can mandate these sales and we can take the city back. We can take it back, because this is a double slap in the face as far as I'm concerned, with our heritage and with our people. Thank you.
Thank you to all candidates for your answers. At this point, we will take some questions from the audience. So I will ask you to hold up your hand if you have a question, and once acknowledged, if you'd identify yourself, we'll have Regad with the mic. If you want to meet her halfway, we've only got 25 feet here. So if you have a question, hold up your hand and I'll signal to you and you can meet Regad. Okay, I saw the back hand go up very first. I believe that's Beth. Okay, we'll start with Beth and then we'll go here and then we'll go here. And there.
Hi, so I'm going to ask you a question that you may not want to answer on the spot. It might require some reflection, and that's okay if you wanted to post an answer later. If you're elected, can you please share how you'll use your role as a municipal leader to partner with other elected leaders to address concerns of safety, planning, instability, and organization for our kids and our community school systems?
Thank you. And we'll have 1 minute to answer, and we'll start with Alex.
1 second.
That was a big question.
Yeah, that was. It was like 4 questions in one.
I apologize. I'm running out of questions and I didn't register. I would have submitted the question ahead of time if I had gone through the registration process. So that's why I'm saying an answer later is totally okay. I'm putting people on the spot. I know it.
All right, I will just kind of go at it. When it comes to the youth and the individuals and newcomers coming to London, definitely having a support system for them, a support system through the schools, and a support system through the nonprofits. Working as a earlyhood child worker through the YMCA, I can see the gaps throughout the city. As a supervisor, I would go from one end to the other, and I can see the lack of funding and materials. It's very prominent. Being able to make the city more transparent with this and having more equal and consistency throughout children's resources will definitely improve that, as well as having more funding for teachers or nonprofits providing coaching and recreational sports for children will definitely help incentivize a positive, healthy lifestyle, as well as improve the community overall as a whole. I hope that helps in the direction of your question. Thank you.
Thank you. Over to John.
Beth, thanks for the question. And there's a lot there, but I think probably the biggest area that I would see right now is dialogue. I think there's dialogue between the school board and the city itself, which is lacking. And it's lacking in how we engage. It's lacking in how we impact communities when we make decisions. And so a lot of those decisions that are being made are being felt by communities. So I think there needs to be a better dialogue between us, because The decisions that are made at the school board have direct impacts on how our communities function, how our communities flow. So if it came down to it, I would say that's probably the biggest piece that we need to deal with. Thank you.
Thank you. And then to David.
So I think I understood the question, so I'm going to try to answer it the best I can. I would like to see a more balanced education system. I would like to see educators and students come from a diverse set of backgrounds, and so we can have experiences for our youth at a young age of what London has to offer and the different walks of life that can come to the school. I would definitely like to see moving forward, this balance, and it would promote dialogue and get us to start talking to each other. So it is about dialogue, and it would be up to the city to fully support this kind of educational environment. Thank you.
Thank you. And we had audience questions, the first hand raised. I'm going to cover the first 3 hand raised questions, and then we can address the next few, if that's okay. It'll help me keep track up here. So our next question raised was this gentleman here in the beige, and I should mention too to try to keep your question to 30 seconds, and you may address the question to one candidate or all.
Don't stand in front of the speaker. Okay. You asked if people wear masks. Is it okay if I take it off while I'm asking the question? I'll keep 6 feet away from people. Okay. A quick question. Is there anybody here from the media covering this meeting? I don't see anyone raising their hand other than Rogers, other than you guys. That's a sad comment on what's going on. My question is to John. John says he's the counselor for this ward, but you were not elected in the last election. You were appointed by the city council. For the people who are here, it's going to take more than 30 seconds to explain the background of this question.
Let's be respectful of the process and
yes.
try to keep 30 seconds.
All right. What happened at City Council was that John was appointed because he was the runner-up, because a year ago the councillor suddenly quit. In the next ward, Ward 6, there was a similar situation at the same time. The person who was the runner-up there, who was a New Democrat, was not appointed, and the person was selected by the mayor. John, you had a choice when they decided to not have a by-election, because the law says you can have a by-election.
Of the question. If we could ask a question, that would be great.
John, you had a choice. You could have said, no, I will not accept the position of councillor. I insist, Mr. Mayor, there should be a by-election. You didn't do that. I don't think you're the legitimate councillor here.
John, I'll leave to you to respond, or we can move on.
You know what? There wasn't a question there. I'm not going to respond to Gil. Thank you.
We have our next question over here, this gentleman in the green.
Hi, my name is Mohammed. I'd just like to follow up on the last question that came through the pre-registration. Do you honestly and sincerely think that a vacancy tax would actually fill downtown? Let me just posit this to you. I had a commercial tenant that left downtown with very, very inexpensive rent. Why? He'd gotten broken into 4 times in less than a year. What is a vacancy tax going to do?
And is this directed towards all candidates? Then we will start with our order and we'll start.
Thank you for your question. In all honesty, what a vacancy tax can do is help inspire owners of their property to not allow these properties to be vacant, as well as hopefully not allow people to be buying up low-income buildings and then holding them on the market, not allowing potential renters to get in to have their businesses. This isn't the only solution to promote business in the downtown core. Following the business plan, as well as helping promote culture, diversity, having London grow with the growing population is one of the key ways to help this downtown core grow, as well as having more rapid transit, having more bike lanes, having more accessibility to getting to the downtown core.
Thank you, and we'll move to John.
No, I don't think it's going to make any difference right now. I've been downtown for a long time. We use this argument over and over and over again that vacant buildings downtown are because we don't tax them, that people are waiting for the perfect tenant at the end of the day. I can tell you, talking to realtors who are trying to fill space, building owners who are trying to give space away, literally cannot do it because of the issues we are having in our core right now. So if we're going to look at how we want to turn the tide, there is an easier way to do that, and that is to get people living there. If we can get people living in our downtown, those spaces become desirable, and that is what we need. Until we get to that point, that will be a challenge we will continue to have. Thank you.
And to David.
So a vacancy tax that I'm looking into doesn't necessarily target commercial buildings because that is a very multifaceted issue. I'm looking at residential buildings, residential houses and residential units, because those units are clearly, if they're vacant for a long period of time, that's clearly something that's being used as an investment vehicle. That's something that speculators are coming in and buying up our housing supply. That is a huge issue, and that's pushing up the rent. And that's why one of the big reasons why housing is so unaffordable. That is what I'm talking about when I speak of a vacancy tax.
Thank you. And I saw this hand here, and then next we'll do.
It's okay, I'm an old hat at this, so I can blast it out there. I guess what is...
We need it for the recording, if that's okay.
You can still yell if you want.
Okay, I guess the question I have is that listening to you all speak in terms of mental health supports, support for homelessness and housing development, and that is that there's another side to that I think I would like to hear your answer for. Are you committed to raising municipal taxes to pay for this?
Question. We will start with Alex.
For all candidates? Yes. That's a great question. And being a born and raised Londoner, higher taxes throughout the city is definitely driving more people into selling their houses and moving out of the city. And that is not something I want to see. I want to see my family, I want to see my future's family grow up and be able to live here. My family has lived in the same house for over 50 years. And the taxes have been increasing because of the market demand of houses and the lack of affordable houses being built. Being able to have more programs to allow individuals funding through the new homeowner incentives, through the national plan, will help the core and help create more opportunities for individuals to stay within the London area.
Thank you for your answer. And over to John.
Thank you for that question. A couple things on that. First, and let's be honest, in London we pay some of the highest taxes in Ontario. The fact of the matter is that in order to deal with the challenges that we have in our downtown core, which really now are affecting a lot of London, not just Ward 13, we are going to have to reallocate funds and focus our dollars where they are going to be utilized the best. We have some real challenges, and I think taking those challenges head on means looking at the way we spend our dollars and ensuring we're putting those dollars into fixing our ground game before we're fixing other things. We may have a wish list of things we want, but it comes down to, until we fix our core challenges, we need to put some of our asks aside. Thank you.
Thank you. And over to David.
So I am an income stressed person myself who is usually late on my property tax. So I do fear that property tax will go up, and I would like to not see it, but I do know it is going to go up because the cost of services has gone up, and considering inflation, that's something that's going to happen. On top of that, to pay for things, we can look for other ways to balance our books and other ways that we can offset the rise of property tax to pay for certain situations. That would be the first area that I would look at to reduce the amount of pressure, upward pressure on our property tax. Once we've exhausted those measures, then we need to pay for our issues. We need to pay for the people who are on the street and put them into housing. We need to pay for building and bringing infrastructure to housing that is affordable, and we need to put our money where our mouth is. Because if we don't, then we're going to continue seeing the things that we're seeing, and we're going to continue on this path. This is what we need to do. As a city, we need to come together and see that there is cost to our social issues. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have our next hand here, and then you will be following. Okay, thank you. Yes, in the white. I think it's white. Light gray. Silver.
Hi, good afternoon. My name's Teresa Novick. I've been living downtown or in the core area since about 1985. Thanks for being here today and talking about your views and your plans and sharing your solutions for the downtown area. I've got a million questions, but I'm going to stick to active transportation. Ever since I've lived in London, I have gotten to work either on foot or on bicycle. My biggest issue is safety in the winter. Once I get it out of downtown, the sidewalks are always icy, snow-packed. I've had multiple falls. I've never broken anything, but that could easily happen. So I'd like to know how you're going to make that safe year-round. Bicycle paths are great, but, oh, sorry. So, yeah, how are you going to make it safe? How are you going to get Londoners out there? Biking in minus 17, 20 weather is very, very challenging, especially if you're going any distance. Thank you.
Okay, and that is to all candidates. Okay, so we'll start with Alex in our order.
That's a really great question, and definitely something I will be working towards on my campaign is more active transportation. Being a student previously, I would use and rely on all means of transportation, walking, bike paths, and public transit. So definitely focusing on the Vision Zero initiative of road safety and educating and advocating these pillars in the community so that everyone can start to feel safe, as well as implement funding so that these pillars can be put into place within the community so that bikers start to feel safe with more blockades, more markings on roads. Red light cameras are currently 4 in the downtown ward district, so increasing the needs of road safety, as well as being able to plow and making the infrastructure more plowable, and that there isn't going to be a inconvenience when the time of year changes. So making it more infrastructurally weather safe. Thank you.
And over to John.
So for those of you who know me, you know I walk a lot. And I'm going to tell you that when we talk about winter for active transportation, the number one choice for most Londoners is walking. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't be clearing our bike paths. We need to. But our focus needs to be on our sidewalks. Our focus needs to be on ensuring that people who are choosing to walk and choosing to get to the bus, which a lot of them are seniors in our downtown, are walking and have a safe alternative. I can tell you when I walk the downtown in the winter, the minute I get north of Waterloo Street, the sidewalks are not done. That's not acceptable to me. We need to be clearing these sidewalks and ensuring that all Londoners have a safe option if they don't have a vehicle. And that safe option and that safe choice, first and foremost, will be the choice to walk. Thank you.
Thank you. Now to David.
Yes, London is a very driver-oriented city. We got wide roads, and the focus usually during the wintertime is definitely clearing the roads first. So yes, we should be clearing our sidewalks as well and clearing out paths for people using different mobility methods, whether it's walking or biking. Speaking to the summertime, to bring our streets more safe. Our roads are designed in a way that's dangerous, inherently dangerous. They're wide, and just by feeling alone when you're driving, it incentivizes drivers to drive faster. So if we were to build, or when we maintain these roads and redo work, if we were to actually bring in a new design implementation that inherently makes you drive slower, that would be something that I would like to see to do. Also, that would fit in well with protected bike lanes, which is clearly going to be protecting bikes because you have a barrier between the bike lane and the road, and that would incentivize more ridership. Thank you.
And our next question selected was blue blazer, gentleman, and I saw your hand. You'll be next.
I have a question for you. On behalf of all small businesses downtown, if elected, what actions would you take? What initiatives would you introduce to help the situation for businesses downtown? And I would like to have it answered by all three, starting with David, John, and Alex. You're welcome, Alex.
Thank you for that. We'll start with David.
Thank you, Jerry. So the question is, what will we do to help businesses downtown, correct? Okay, so obviously support businesses downtown, especially businesses in need or any kind of barriers or any type of administrative help that businesses have. I'm not saying do it for them, I'm saying support as much as you can, especially businesses that bring in a diversity of different goods, not just necessarily restaurants. We obviously need to support our restaurants, but I'd like to see other goods be sold downtown, especially if people are actually living here. Goods like buying diapers, or goods like clothes, things like that. If we want to create a more walkable city, we need to have a diverse set of goods that people need for living, for your day-to-day lives. We need to support businesses like that, and we need to bring those businesses into the downtown core. Thank you.
Thank you. And in reverse order, we'll move to John next.
I've always been in the center, though. You know what? First, I'm going to say I was astonished at the number of businesses in our downtown that survived the pandemic. Those businesses, some of them were closed for over 30 weeks in 2 years, and that has been a real challenge. But I think one of the things that as we come out of the pandemic, we look at this summer and we forget the challenges they went through. We forget that the small businesses there are going to feel the pandemic for a long time coming out. One of the things I think we can do as a council is work with the city to come up with a subclass for small business tax. And I think that's something that we have to do. They did that in Toronto. They cut their small business tax by 15%, and in turn, the province did the exact same thing. I think we have an opportunity to do it here, but not just an opportunity, we have an obligation to the businesses, because when you think about it, 80% of the business in London is small business. Thank you.
And to Alex.
Definitely a very important question and something that needs to be addressed. Most funding for small businesses are just loans. So being able to support the businesses in a different way is something that needs to happen through the council. Being able to provide more transit, more opportunity to get the people into the core, more rapid transit, more parking, even though that is not the most environmentally friendly solution, but providing opportunities for more jobs, like bringing back the meter maids, providing more safety within the community, either through monitoring cameras, having initiatives within the downtown core to have a citizen patrol, utilizing the loitering bylaw that's currently not in place, and potentially providing more mental health officers to prevent the homeless that are greatly affecting the small businesses within our core. Thank you.
And our next question is asked here. We may have time for one or two more, so if I could see your hand if you have a question, okay, you'll be next. Thank you.
I was trying to think about a question that could try to get more at your values and principles and not necessarily specific issues, because who knows what the heck's going to happen over the next 4 years or however long it's going to be. So one question I was thinking about was the idea that, and I know that practically it's nothing that we could do from the perspective of a city, is that because the province controls this, is that we don't have a progressive property tax system, but we do have a progressive income tax system. The people who could pay more, pay more. People who could pay less, and there could be a whole lot of things that could come from that. I think it would be nice if cities
and that's 30 seconds for
I
your
think
question.
it would be nice if cities would fight for that, and I'm wondering what you guys think about this.
Thank you for your question, and we'll start in our order with Alex.
Thank you. That's a great question. And holding up to your values as well as the values of the city is definitely something I'm passionate about and something that motivates me. A progressive tax system isn't something I'm 100% familiar with, and I will definitely be looking into that process. I believe individuals are all unique and we are all working for the same goal, but sometimes financially are not in the same situation. And potentially a progressive tax system might be something that our council should do if it is the most beneficial thing for the overall community. I'll always be looking out for the best interest of Ward 13 as well as the city as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you. Over to John.
Thank you for that question. I think the idea of a progressive tax system, I'm going to say is a good idea. I think in some ways we have that, a little bit of that already, but I think it goes back to maybe your question being around, as taxes go up, taxes will always impact lower income Londoners more than it's going to impact higher income Londoners. And we always have to remember that. There are a lot of people that when I sit at a meeting and someone will say, well, if we raise taxes 20%, we could do this. And people will stand up and say, I'm willing to pay 20% more in tax. But that's not most Londoners. Most Londoners can't do that. They don't have the opportunity to do that. And I think we have to keep that in mind as we look at taxes and as we look at tax increases and how we spend our money in the city. It's how we impact low-income earners that, to me, tell you about your city and what your city is. Thank you.
And to David.
So thank you for the question. Currently, we have a regressive property tax system and not a progressive one. So yes, that does disenfranchise individuals who are struggling with certain bills, especially if you're on a lower income scale. I would definitely explore something like that. But like you said, the city is the creature of the province, and it would be the province to be up to legislate that. And I have heard this many times during my door-to-door canvassing, so I would definitely explore something like that. And if I get enough people, I would lobby for that. So thank you.
Thank you for those answers. I believe this will be our last audience question. And to this blue collared, very bright, nice blue.
Oh, thanks. He makes sense to everything. So we seem to be talking a lot recently in the city about urban growth boundaries and expanding them. We seem to be talking about housing. We seem to be talking about the environment. So I'm going to ask one question that encompasses all of them. Why is it so hard in the city of London? I've talked to many of your planners about this, Britt, and why is it so hard in London to get permit to build a tiny home? We can move a Santa house in front of the market, which I've talked to every business owner in the place. They think it's a terrible idea. Yet homeowners who want to build tiny homes, they want to be environmentally responsible, increase the density of our neighborhoods, make our more
and
transit
that's our
friendly.
30-second
Can't
time
get a permit to do so.
there,
What would you do? That's all.
Your question, we will start with Alex.
Thank you for your question. I definitely agree with being more minimalist and environmentally conscious is definitely the direction London is looking to go towards. like I said before, I would definitely want to steamroll the permit process and hire more staff, definitely lower the costs, and definitely look into the actual procedure specifically on tiny homes. Being able to have more homes and more sustainable independence is definitely a community positive, and I can see that as something that would help London grow. I would definitely be proactive in not finding loopholes within zoning to change ESAs or open areas that would be potentially limiting our green spaces. But I would definitely be looking into industrial areas or other alternatives to find an equal grounds on changing those zonings. Thank you.
And over to John.
Thank you for that. Gary, I couldn't agree more with you. I can say as somebody that comes from a small business and coming into City Hall for the last 10 months, the wheels of change probably don't move quite as fast as we want them to. I'm the first one to admit that. But I think when you look at it, 5 years ago, we weren't talking about tiny homes the way we do today. Why? Because we didn't have the housing epidemic that we do today. We need to get better. We need to become more nimble to deal with the changes. Let's be perfectly honest. In 2019, if we'd been sitting here, who at this table would have ever predicted we would have a pandemic that would lock us down for the better part of 2 years? Can we do better? Yes, we can. Should we do better? If we strive to do better together, then we will. Part of that is looking at secondary dwelling units like tiny homes to help alleviate the housing crisis. Thank you.
Thank you. And to David.
Thanks for your question, Gary. Short answer, a lack of political will. We definitely need to start bringing in tiny homes. I've heard a lot of people ask for this and talk about this at the door. I believe that it lowers the barriers for home ownership. Housing today is just so expensive, and I would like to see people and their hard-earned job, through their hard-earned labor and their hard-earned work, where they're trading their time for money that goes into rent and leaving them with nothing, which forces them to work for the rest of their lives because they're not building any equity. I would like to see these come into effect. This is something we definitely need. We need it now because that is a good starter and it lowers the barrier of entry into home ownership. So that's what I'd like to see. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have one more question.
I mean, I saw his hand, so.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I feel like everything's good.
You have a question? Then we'll take.
Thank you. Great. If you had a choice of spending your time promoting, developing further London's intercity mass transit system versus the intercity versus intracity, in other words, the local service, which do you think is more important for the well-being of London?
Thank you for that question. And we'll start with Alex.
Thank you so much for that question. Working with the current transportation and as well as building on to new ones, but think the alternative, I think the solution for right now would be working with the current public transit that we have as well as paratransit, making more accessible routes as well as more accessible financially as well as more accessible time-wise. Individuals cannot be wasting hours commuting to half across the city when we already have the resources set in place. Making these changes to the public transit will help make it more sustainable for the future and help promote more active transit for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. And next to John.
So first, I think on the I'm going to say the transit within the city, I think we need to do better. I think we all know that, and I think we need to utilize it better. One of the things I think we can do I think it's time we got rid of yellow school buses for high school students and put them on public transit and let them go to school wherever they want to go. It would utilize our transit system better and give students a better choice on the type of school that they have. The second piece that I will throw into that is we are a regional transit hub. We are the largest urban center in southwestern Ontario, and it's time we realized it's not about getting Londoners from White Oaks to Oak Ridge. It's about getting Londoners to where jobs are. Amazon in St. Thomas, getting them into Strathroy where there is good jobs at the end of the day. We need to lead. We need to create that hub. We need to create that transit in southwestern Ontario, which gives Londoners a choice. Thank you.
Thank you. And to David.
So multiple mobility and transit options, number one. So not just bus transit, but a minimum bike grid of protected bike lanes. People are looking for this type of transit as well as other types of transit. Speaking to paratransit, yes, we need to increase that. You can't just be booking 3 or 4 days in advance, or I don't know, it's a long time that you have to book in advance. If someone needs to go to the doctor because they're sick, how are they supposed to get a paratransit shuttle to get there? We do need to connect the city. Intra-city, I feel like the interior of the city is well serviced. There are some shortfalls, definitely, but I also see shortfalls connecting our work environments. Like I was saying previously, there is no connection between the downtown area to Innovation Drive, where there are good paying jobs, and that has been a big barrier. So we need to address all of these shortfalls. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your answers to all of the questions, and thank you so much to audience members for participating in the event. At this point, I would like to turn it over to the candidates for your closing statements. For this, you'll have 2 minutes. Yes, and we'll start with Alex. Thank you.
Once again, I want to thank everyone for listening, and I want to say a special thank you to the Urban London League for organizing this event, as well as all of the individuals who participated today. I'm hoping to have the opportunity to represent Ward 13 in the downtown core. I'm a very passionate individual who's always looking for an answer. I'm willing to put in the work, and I'm willing to take the experts' advice to follow the strategic plans in order to make the city as a whole a lot more vibrant and a lot more of the city that I grew up in. Bringing more diversity to the core, and as well as more affordable housing, and getting these people to the core with rapid transit or better transit and more consistency within our actual transit, bike, and public services related to snow, construction. I just want to thank everyone again, and if you want any more information on my campaign, you can reach me after this meeting, or you can reach me by phone. And do remember to vote on October 24th. Thank you, everyone, for your time. Thanks.
And we'll hear our closing statement from John.
And it's 2 minutes is a long time. First, I want to thank everyone for taking time out of their day, especially on a Saturday, to come here. I always think it's great when you get an opportunity to engage with so many people. You know, I think that part of, as we move forward, we need to respect the fact that in our core, in our downtown, we have the building blocks to create a great city. But in doing that, sometimes you have to admit that you have challenges that you have to deal with. We need to do that. I've lived here all my life. I would tell you there is no other city I would ever want to live in. But never lose sight of the fact that you can't make it better. This role is about taking on the challenges that make up the centric part of our city, that include our city hall, that includes our downtown, that is meant to be welcoming to visitors, and making it that place where people want to come back to. It's recognizing that we have Western and Fanshawe here, two of the greatest educational institutions in Canada. We need to stop making students feel like second-hand citizens. We need to engage with them. We need to make them part of our community. One of the questions that we got was, how do we do that? We need to be welcoming. We all want that. We all say that. But in the end of the day, we need to work together. If we work together, we can create a great city, a city that we're all proud of. That's the goal. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And our last closing statement from David.
So thank you to the Urban League for holding this, and thank you to everyone who is here to inform your vote and practicing your civic duty to this level. And thank you for everyone who's watching. I definitely appreciate that. I've gone to many doors where people have told me I just don't vote. And I always challenge them and I say, why? And I've heard many answers for that. But the main answer that I see is, what's the point? And I get a feeling from that, which is basically people are seeing London as a lost cause. And I always try to promote that we are not a lost cause. We should not lose hope. It's not over yet. That's why I'm here. I'm a Londoner who has literally stepped up. I felt the struggle. I have gone through a lot in the last few years. I'm an empath by heart, and I know what it feels like to worry about the future. I still feel that feeling today. So I'm here to show everyone that we are on a path, and we have a huge chance on October 24th to change the direction and the course of where we're going. We're not a lost cause. So I'm here to tell you and to show you and showing you that I have stepped up to this level, and this is the length I'm willing to go. And I'm willing to go further if I have to. So I hope that everyone comes out and we lower the level of political apathy, and we come out and show that our city, and we believe that we are not a lost cause, and we do have a future that can be positive. Thank you.
I would like to thank each and every one of you for running for office. Thank you. Thank you for participating today and for taking the first step in serving your community. I'd also like to thank each of you in the audience for coming out today and for informing yourself about the local candidates. Finally, do not forget to vote. What is the election date? October 24th. October 24th. Yes. Thanks again for coming. Good night and stay safe, everyone.
Hello, my name is David Millie, and I'm running to be your Ward 13 councillor. Unfortunately, due to COVID-19, I wasn't able to attend the in-person all-candidate meeting. I'm fighting for housing, affordability, and active transportation, three things that are incredibly important to Ward 13 and London as a whole. City Hall has more tools available to it than we currently make use of, and as a councillor, I would look to use all tools available to help solve our problems. As an IT professional, I look at large systems that are complex, and I focus on improving processes and reducing waste. In my volunteer world, I'm a proven leader, focused on community development and growing youth to be the best that they can be. On October 24th, I hope that I can have your support. Vote David Millie for Ward 13. Thank you.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
Sports fans know Sundays are for football. That's why you need NFL Sunday Tickets. With NFL Sunday Ticket, you'll get every live game, every Sunday afternoon, all season long. Follow your favorite teams and players live in HD. Order NFL Sunday Ticket and get up to 200 regular season games. Call your local service provider today.